We're ready. You ready?
Yep.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Dawson County Board of Commissioners voting session. Today is October the 7th, 2021. We appreciate those of you that are in attendance and those of you that are listening with us online. First off, I need a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Fawcett, seconded by Commissioner Satterfield. Discussion? Hearing none, please vote. And we are out of executive session 4-0. Next up, we'll do the roll call. And we're all here. First, we have an open presentation tonight, Development Authority of Dawson County quarterly update. Chairman Tony Passarella. Tony.
Chairman and Commissioners, here tonight to give a quarterly update of the activities of the Development Authority, and have a small presentation tonight to kind of bring you up to speed. If there are questions, please stop me during the middle. Oops. As you're aware, we had a resignation of the Director of Economic Development. That vacancy is still there. The chamber is, as you know, through our services agreement, they actually employ this person, and we've had a number of interviews. We've had some people that have applied and have taken other jobs. So at this point, we really don't have a lot to report. Last night at a special meeting that we had of the Development Authority, part of the actions coming out of that was that the Development Authority is looking for a quality candidate. We believe the quality trumps the timeliness at this point, and to help facilitate that, the Mandy from the chamber had presented an opportunity to go to an executive search firm, which we have agreed to, and we'll be moving forward with that. And hopefully I'll have an update for you before the next quarterly update. Just a point of reference, the early census data is out, and I'm sure you're all aware of this. Dawson County is the 9th fastest growing county out of the 150 some odd counties in the state of Georgia. And I think that bodes well for the forethought that the Board of Commissioners has had as it relates to trying to manage that growth as we come in, and to also facilitate economic development at the same time. As far as the strategic plan, I don't have any major updates on it. We're kind of at this point, a lot of them are coasting as we go through this replacement for the economic developer. If there are specific questions about one of the strategic initiatives, I'd be glad to answer any questions. Next, we have partnered with the Ellijay Telephone Company to apply for a broadband expansion in their territory. It's listed here in green. As you can see, it's multi-county, but it does touch our northern western borders. And the Development Authority is actually the sponsor of that. We've applied for the ARPA funding for that. That application process was postponed, and it is now, decision will probably be made in the first quarter of next year. If possible, if approved, that will give us a lot of expanded coverage for not only our business interests out there in that area, but also for residential in that area.
Did we include any conversation that we just passed, that Broadband Ready community resolution? Does that help feedback wise from them?
It would help, but that's more on a state level, and the funding that we've applied for is part of a federal program.
Okay.
But it would help. Next, we also wrote a couple letters, as the Board of Commissioners chose to do, in support of two other areas here, one for the Racing Hall of Fame, the other for Etowah Water and Sewer. I bring to your particular attention the Etowah Water and Sewer, which, if granted, will be a major expansion of the sewer capabilities all the way to 400 from their current install base. And that would really help us accelerate and lower some of the costs that are involved in establishing commercial and industrial in that area. I would like to spend some time on some project updates. The first is what we're calling our Industrial Park 1. We have, as y'all are aware, we've been spending the last year in researching some of these locations and probable cost and grants available and things. And we feel like we kind of centered in on two particular areas in the short term. The first of which would be the site on Highway 53. We've had engineering studies completed. We've also been in conversations with GDOT for in and out access there, also with utilities there. And the concept is we developed that 26-acre piece of property there and get it site ready. So we'd have to install infrastructure as well as pad readiness, move a lot of dirt there. And that total cost is $3.5 million in our estimates that we've done. And that would get it ready and for approximately 200,000 square feet, I think, of total space in that area. Our board has approved a sequential type of approach to this. And the concept is that we need to exercise some new muscles to be able to get an industrial park sited. And some of that exercise, we were sure that it won't be 100% trouble-free. And so we'd like to learn on this. And this is the site that we've chosen. We have developed a memorandum of understanding of a mechanism for us to approach with your legal counsel to take a look at some of the funding that has part of SPLOST 7 that has been assigned to the Development Authority to acquire land for this park, and the ways that we can work together to get this program off the ground sooner than later. The second site is what we're calling our North 400 site. We're in the process now of doing some of the discovery there, trying to cost and get the economic benefits together. So we've applied for and we've gotten two Georgia Tech grants that are doing studies. These studies will come back with two types of modeling. The first is the fiscal impact of this type of development, which is a multi-use development. And that will be customized to the Dawson County current environment as well as our school system, since it'll be an impact on both. That will be the fiscal impact. And then the economic estimates, either the job growth, either direct, indirect, or induced by the project, and the benefits and costs and expenses to the county will be the product of that. That we have a draft of that modeling that has already been delivered to us. We're in the process now of putting that into a final report, and that final report will be available to you by the end of the year. We're still have a lot of interest in this reclamation work to do resurfacing of the private road that is West Hightower back in that industrial area. This is adjacent to Site 1 of the industrial park that we're pursuing. I know that you guys have been very diligent with the leadership to put a special tax district policy in place. And this is one of the areas that we still have a commitment from the vast majority of the current property owners in that area. And I think might be a model for that type of process once we get it formalized. Lastly, a final update on the Peaks of Dawson. As you're aware, this revenue bond was a vehicle that we used to induce living wage housing in the county. These 80 apartments are now through the bonding process. They were shopped, they were sold within 2 hours, all the bonds for a $10 million project. And we closed on that on the 22nd of September, and construction should be complete in 14 to 18 months. And that's my report for this quarter.
They broke ground over there. I saw
I
somebody
think
working.
that's on top of that other piece that's
Oh, is it?
off of Lumpkin Campground, because we had them cut that road in. I think they're starting. I drove by that yesterday.
Yeah, I talked to the developer of the Peaks of Dawson, and I think Commissioner Gaines is correct. What you're seeing back there is just a clearing for the
Right.
other property, which is adjacent to it.
Yeah.
Which is-
But
An activity that we wanted to revitalize that corner where the restaurant was.
well, there is also another technical issue that came up in the development of those areas where the storm drain and retention pond system back there has failed next to the auto parts in front of the, by the Mexican restaurant. And so that's another step that has to be taken before the development can begin.
Was that, so, I mean, was that handled? 'Cause I know
That's
that was
handled.
Kind of in flux.
It was in flux. It's handled, all the property owners with the exception of one stepped up and are making those changes, which was with the help of the chamber. The chamber helped us manage that communication.
That was a big hurdle, I think.
And the nice thing for the public is that we were successful in establishing a passive park that will be part of that development that'll serve the county beyond just the residents of the apartment complex.
Other questions for Tony? Thank you, sir. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
We have to vote to accept them. Pass it for
Yeah. it's part
Part of their amenity.
it. So we will be-
No, no.
I think it was on there when they did their
Yeah.
presentation. It was one of the recommendations.
Yeah.
Stipulations.
All right. All right. Ask you to please stand for brief invocation and pledge. You would bow your heads. Our dear gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this another day and for the blessings of life. We ask for knowledge and wisdom to carry out the business of this great county. Anything we accomplish, we give you the honor and glory in Christ's name. We do ask and pray. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Are there any announcements? Okay. Next, approval of minutes. First up, we have the minutes of the work session held on September 16, 2021. Any additions or deletions? Motions.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Fawcett,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Dooley. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And those are approved 4-0. Next up, we have the minutes of the voting session held on September 16, 2021. Any additions or deletions? Motions.
Motion approved.
Motion by Commissioner Satterfield,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And those are approved 4-0. Next, we have the approval of the agenda. We do have one change to the agenda, addition number 4 under new business. This is the annual capital improvements element adoption. I'll entertain a motion with that one change.
Make a motion that we approve the amended agenda to include number 4 under new business capital improvements element adoption.
Motion by Commissioner Gaines,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Fawcett. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 4-0 with the change. Next up, public comment. No one signed up for public comment in this section. We'll move on to alcohol license. New alcohol license, retail package sale, consumption on premises of wine, Blue Duck Cider Company. You're going to handle that?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Good evening, commissioners. So Mr. Matzik will be opening the Blue Duck Cider Company in the former location of the Magnolia Meadery located at Industrial Park Road in Lumpkin Campground. All necessary documentation has been completed and no issues were raised.
Questions from the board?
We're going from bees to ducks.
Yes, sir. Keeping it in the barnyard. Yes, sir.
There's a joke in there, but I'm not.
I know.
In the barnyard. That's good.
Is there it seemed like I had seen a contradiction in this about there was no dining area and then it seemed like there was. Do you know what I'm talking? I can't remember now where I even saw it.
The consumption on premise,
Yeah,
it's a tasting room. So the majority of our applications that come through don't have tasting rooms. They're all considered consumption on premises because we see restaurants a whole lot more than we see things like this. This is only I think the second one that I've seen come through. So that's why there's a little bit different language there.
okay. So there is no dining area.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay,
Tasting.
And this
It's,
was-
yeah, just a small little
this
tasting
was
area.
put in our updated.
Yeah, this is part of update.
This is part of the update we did.
Yes.
part of what?
Alcohol levels.
Update.
Growing trend that a lot of communities are doing.
Seen a lot of those, or a lot of interest in those.
Other questions? Pleasure of the board.
Make a motion that we approve the alcohol license for the Blue Duck Cider Company.
Motion by Commissioner Gaines,
Second.
second by Commissioner Satterfield. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 4-0. Next up, we have unfinished business, consideration of intergovernmental agreement between the city of Dawsonville and Dawson County concerning trail infrastructure for pedestrian access between Main Street Park and Library. That was tabled from the April 15th, 2021 voting session. Ms. Davis, you got something on that?
Yes, I'll be happy to present that. This intergovernmental agreement has been in a holding pattern because initially it was presented to us when the city of Dawsonville did not own parts of the property that was covered in the agreement. So the property now has been conveyed into the city such that they own the property upon which they are contracting. This is primarily an obligation of the city, and the county is merely just granting access for construction purposes for them to accomplish what is needed to do the construction. The city will be constructing an access bridge and trail across from the Main Street Park to the Dawson County Library. And also an interpretive trail that will be in the same general area to provide recreation, educational, interpretive opportunities to the general public in the school system, and then providing signage as well. So it's really a function of the city development, but they need access to our property in order to carry out the purposes of the agreement. So it's a win-win, it seems, to everyone. And there's no money committed by the county whatsoever. The city is paying all the costs of construction, and they'll retain responsibility for operations and maintenance, and they will have insurance on the property and also be responsible for, all the costs of design, permits, and so forth.
So they decided where the bridge was and the trail. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. The Chief Thompson and the Sheriff's Department have
Yeah.
all met and
Okay,
Public Works and all, and everybody's in agreement with the location.
okay. Because wasn't there a problem there at one time?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what I thought. Okay, so it's all worked out.
So was it saying library, so is it still behind the fire station? So they can get access?
A little bit west of it's between the two. I guess.
But it's on the
On this
side,
side of the Census.
on fire station side. That way they ain't gotta go around the fence. Okay, 'cause I know that was the problem. One time they were gonna have to go back on the road, go back through the library to get to it.
Other questions? Motions?
Are you going? I make a motion that we approve this intergovernment agreement.
A motion by Mr. Fawcett,
Second.
second by Commissioner Dooley. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 4-0. We'll move into new business. First up, we have consideration of one-time purchasing policy ordinance requirement waiver request. Melissa brought that to us. We had one bid, I do believe it was, and that
Mhm.
person was late getting
Mhm.
there. And it's the same people that have been doing work for us. They're about an hour and a half late from our normal bid receival time, and she made that request for that waiver. So what's the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to approve the waiver request.
Motion by Commissioner Dooley,
Second.
second by Commissioner Satterfield. Discussion.
I just want a reminder, why was Ryan late with that? I think you mentioned, what did he say? He didn't. Okay,
Forgetfulness.
We all make.
well, I know it.
Mhm.
He's too young for that. I'm not allowing that.
But just as a note, that was the only bid
Yes.
that was received.
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mhm.
Consider 2020 what the hearing was.
Yeah, I know.
They have to be within our area.
Yeah.
Mhm. That's right.
Other information? Okay, motion second, please vote. That's approved 4-0. Next up, we have consideration of 2022 Board of Commissioners meeting schedule that was presented to you by Ms. Kristen. Any other information needed? Motions?
What, question, did we have the ability to put those back to back? Due to,
As long as we advertise, is that correct? Yes, we did the back-to-back. As long as we advertise appropriately,
and we did advertise appropriately?
we have not.
We have not done that because this is next year.
Oh, this,
Be next year.
This is next year's.
oh, as long as we
You can
advertise,
make
okay,
that as part
okay,
of your
not,
motion
yeah, yeah,
if you want to.
okay. I'll be happy to make it. I didn't know if there was any other
I was
question.
gonna see where this was going. Is it?
So I would make a motion to approve our 2022 Board of Commissioners meeting schedule to be work session at 4:00 to be immediately followed by our voting session, and to have executive session if needed to follow the voting session, and that we will properly advertise that to give people plenty of opportunities to participate, and that we will also continue our online delivery of our meeting so people can consume that as well.
Motion by Commissioner Gaines,
Second.
second by Commissioner Satterfield. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 4-0. Next up, we have consideration to release a request for proposal concerning electric vehicle charging stations. As you remember, we discussed that a couple of times about looking into electric vehicles and the charging stations and finding out what those costs are, and that's what this will do. And so that will give Miss Melissa another thing to do on her list. So any other information needed?
Cost and revenue, because they could be potentially revenue generating. So
They
it's
could
not
be.
just Cost, it could be potentially looking at what our revenue generation opportunities are.
You guys will also need to approve some type of a budget, whether it's amended at the contract time. You have to have a budget for the RFP. What I've seen in the research is it's been anywhere from $150,000, $25,000, $500,000. It all just depends on what it is that you want.
A lot of it depends on how many stations you want and all that stuff. So basically, we're trying to find out what a station costs right now.
It's going to be dependent upon where it's going to go.
Right?
When Commissioner Satterfield and Kristen and I were talking about it, it's in established areas that's paved. There should be electricity because there's light poles nearby, but we're still going to have somebody design and then do the construction work.
Right now, I think the main goal is to find out what one, I mean, and there may be prices out there, like I said, any far from, I think the goal here was to find out, what does a station cost? Basically,
Right.
more of that than maybe a proposal to actually put one. We just want to know what it's going to cost.
Well, we can definitely do the
Is there-
request for information like we always
I
do.
think that's where we want to go
Yeah, that's,
first.
that's what I
Is
thought.
do a
It
request.
it could be 1 to 6 locations
Yeah, because we could have
here.
here, a couple here, both our recreation parks,
Mhm.
maybe a couple of fire stations that are in areas of heavy traffic, like Station 2.
Right.
So if we could do a request for information, I think that's what we're actually looking for instead of more of a proposal.
To include the ROI, because my understanding was that these
Yeah.
are revenue generating. and It's not.
Yeah, they
just a
can be,
pic-
yeah.
Yeah, it definitely can be,
Yeah.
for sure.
So I wouldn't make sure I include that. To your point, is if we have more than a revenue generating, we may decide to put more out.
Right.
Right.
So do you need us to vote on that? Or can you just do?
I can just do that request for information, but if you wanted it to go straight out to a proposal. you
I think we
would
just
need to
want the
do
information.
A budget,
Looking for.
yeah.
And we just want the information of basic
Information,
costs, what it would cost and, what we would be looking at. Because I know there's grants and different things out there for some of this stuff as well
Right.
that we may look into further once we have the information needed to take the next step.
And we really need to try to get with somebody who's going to design this for us. Because like I said, I looked, we've had
I
several
met with a
different.
company with the city
solicitations.
and with the school. And I'll
Right.
see if I can't find that information, but that's just what they do. And they help you with the grant process as well. So
Okay,
they could probably give us some information on that. I'll see if I
That'd
can
be
get that
great.
to you.
especially, I mean, and if a cost is involved, then we'll need to
They
have
al-
that
they
budget
also
for
dealt
them.
with that and the cars. So, I mean, they
Right.
didn't actually sell you the car, but this company was attached to companies that had electrical cars as well.
Right. And as far as purchasing an electrical truck, we had talked about that too. It's on the Sourcewell contract already.
Right.
And so that's already been bid out. If
Well,
the money
yeah.
is decided on that, we could.
And I
go
think,
Straight to that contract.
we'll get this information and get a little information about the car.
Mhm.
Me personally, this is just me, being we're buying a car for the tax assessor's office, it may be a great opportunity to get an electric vehicle for our first one to see how it's going to work, especially if we did a station to plug it into.
Right.
So
Man, how much, I thought they cost a bunch.
they're not as high as they used to be. They've
I
come
thought
down a
you had
lot.
like 28,000 in the.
There are,
budget
but I
for
mean, I'm
that.
just
I
want to see
really-
what they cost.
yeah.
And it just really depends.
It depends on
The-
what kind of car you get.
The 2022 pricing's not out yet, but it should be
Okay.
out by the 1st of November. And
The
Alan
government
J.
price will be a lot less than what you could buy it for.
When it-
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Oh, I won't pay the most for it.
It's very jealous when you see these contract prices versus what you go to a regular, me and you going to buy
Really?
one.
Oh,
It's
don't tell
crazy.
me.
You look at what David
70,
drives,
yes.
David's driving probably a $28,000 truck on the government thing that would cost you 65 if you went down to the Dodge place to buy it.
The fire, those Rams, they're $70, 70,000 all day long. We paid maybe 45 for them. It's sickening. I hate that we can't get it ourselves.
Well, I do too.
Like, let
All
us
right,
use
so-
this price.
So we don't need a vote on that. You can just handle that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right,
So we're not voting on this?
no, we don't need to vote.
Okay.
Next up, number 4, we have the annual capital improvement element adoption. And basically that is to accept and then send it back to GMRC again
Correct.
for them to to post it.
To adopt.
Yeah. We're adopting it and then we're sending it back again because they've already looked at it
Correct.
and everything's good.
Yes.
Okay? All right. Motion,
Motion to approve the CIE adoption.
motion by Commissioner Dooley. Second. Second by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's adopted 4-0. Thank you. No one signed up for public comment here. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you for your presence here and those of you that are online with us as well.